Hello, Tamsin.
Hello, Matthew. Fancy seeing you here. We're in the back of the ute. I've got Matthew Tonkin, and he is one of those people that I met 3 years ago, in actual fact, and we've always sort of talked business side of things, and specifically with the regenerative way, because of course it being a holistic approach, the business has to be holistic as well, so it's not just about financial gain and profit making in that respect. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Tamsin.
How are you going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Excellent. So what I thought was we could start off by addressing how the business runs with regards to our own health and how important we are towards that business.
Okay, well, I think of our farm businesses as having to have a need or a purpose, and the way I think about that is that the people that own it, work in it, rely on it, are very important to the business. And when you're in these businesses, you've got to define what it is you're trying to achieve. And for me, we need to be having the people involvement needs to be taken care of. So part of the profitability that I look for is the wellness of the people that are in the business. Do they have time for holidays? What are their work hours like? Are they safe, workplace health and safety? Are they going to get home to their families? Are the owners being rewarded? Is the business making a profit that allows for the future development of the business and the investment of profits back into capital works? So how do you get there? Well, the regenerative journey for me made me aware of some shortfallings in my own personal space that I had to deal with. Around about 7 years ago, I had cause to look at where I was at in my own personal journey, and had to take some time to understand what it was that I was doing. And I wasn't really very happy in my life. I was diverting away from some issues that I had. And part of that was that I was actually using alcohol as a diversion from it. And I had been for a long time, I just didn't realise it. I just thought it was normal life. But I'd sort of always had a suspicion that it wasn't normal, that I was relying on it too hard. And eventually I became unwell. Not just through the use of alcohol, but also through the way I was living my life, the way I was eating, not exercising, not really taking too much care of myself. My mental health was pretty shot. And I was running multiple businesses at that stage, and a lot of stress and a lot of time, and I had to do something about it. So
when was the point that you actually acknowledged this? Was there a specific time or an event?
Yeah, I'd been to a KLR training course, and I met Graham Reese and Rod Knight and Jim Lindsay. And Rod Knight, bless his soul, he's passed away now, but he was a big fellow like myself, big frame, big stature, bit of a jovial bloke. And we're having a bit of a chat, and I said to him, should we meet up this afternoon for a beer and a bit more of a talk? And he said, we can meet up. He said, I don't drink. And it was probably the first time in my life that I'd run across a fellow that obviously had a lot of similarities with myself, that it had just come straight out and said it. And I went, okay, cool. Let's just meet up and have a cup of tea. And we did. But Rod got me thinking. And it was the start of the work that I did in that school. I went there searching for answers to economics for livestock trading. So I wanted to make more money out of what I was doing, because I was running a livestock trading business as well as a livestock marketing business. So I went looking for further answers to try and enhance both of those. And what I came away with was some guides to personal view, and met some people that put me onto different paths, and I started studying and looking at different things, and I became very aware. And I read some teachings from the Ranching for Profit School in America, from a fellow called David Pratt. And his story was about self-serving and cutting away things of your life that don't serve you any longer. but first you've got to identify what they are. So yeah, I went down that path and started to look at myself.
So that was the acknowledging side, and then what I believe in is then you kind of have to accept. But you don't accept that it's the way it is, you accept it so that you can move on or change or do something about it.
You've got to admit to yourself that you've got an issue first, so part of that's looking into your pride and your ego and actually understanding that, hey, you aren't the perfect soul that you might have in your own eyes, or that your mum thinks you are, and that you do have some issues. And then the second part of that is to realise that you're not the only person alive with those issues. And then you've got to go through I now understand that I've got an issue. I know I want to improve myself. How do I go about doing that? So where, what, how? And I always ask why. Why would I want to do that? So I had to set myself a goal. So the why was, well, I want to live a happy and fulfilled life. How do I get there? Where's the pathway? And then I understood that I actually had to make the pathway. Because if you don't do it yourself, no one's going to do it for you.
And so that, although it's sort of a life plan, it's kind of integral to business plan as well, because your life is a part of the business.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, whether you work for somebody or work for yourself. And I think a lot of people fall down in this regard. They're focusing on so many other things that they themselves are suffering. So they never actually get to where they want to go.
No, they don't. And they don't understand how to get there a lot of the time. So I went through some pretty nasty drought years when I was in business for myself, and I had to understand that I had to make some changes. And I ended up doing work for corporate corporate agriculture, which led me on a different journey, but I think I had to become open to that journey as well. And then I had to understand that I'm my own business. What I do, whether you're working for somebody, you're working in your own business or whatever, you're actually selling your time to that business for reward and gain. So that's where you've got to get to.
And it's not just financial.
It's not just financial. Oh, look, you can look at it in many different ways, and I'll divert back to some regenerative agriculture. I've got some ideas about the different pillars of regenerative agriculture. One of them is environment, which encompasses land, water, soils, trees, all that stuff together. The next one is the business. How's your business look? What's your structure? What's your finance? Do you have access? What's your decision-making process? Then you've got the production system. So what do I actually make money out of? What am I growing? What am I doing that's going to make me money? Fourth part is the people. And people aren't just important, they are the most important. Because unless the people get the reward, whatever reward they choose, to want to have, why would you be doing it? So farming without people is really a no-brainer. It can't happen. The people make the decisions, the people do the work, the people manage the land, the people reap the benefits and the rewards. So you've got to profit in the people, profit personally, whether it's yourself, your family, your loved ones, your broader community, the area that you live in, your state, your country. You know, we all want to serve our country. So I sort of live in that world. It's probably a little bit limited in the number of people that think the same way as me.
I was going to say there'll be plenty of people watching this going, he's nailed it. You know what? That's my downfall. That's the bit that I'm not doing or not aware of, or actually, worse still, ignoring.
Yeah, you can't ignore what you're doing for yourself, because there's no real gains in getting up 4:30 every morning and off to work and flogging yourself all day and getting home too tired to play with your kids, talk to your partner, be a loving and supportive member of your family. No good coming home grumpy, worn out and tired. What are you doing it for, mate?
Yeah.
I'm
thinking the answer's at the bottom of the bottle.
The answer's not in the bottom of the bottle. It's not in the weed. It's not in whatever else you want to put in your system. The answer is in fulfilling what your goals are, and everyone's different. Every farm's different. Every person's different. What you want to achieve in life is different. We're all satisfied at a certain level. So you've got to set some personal goals. And as I said, I wanted to be happy and fulfilled. And for me, that's about living a full life. I want to go and see things. I like to do some adventures. I like to be on holiday. I like to take a journey. I like my work. You know, I like being with the animals. I like being in the ecosystem, in the environment, seeing a difference. That fulfills me. I don't have to be away from my work to be fulfilled. I get up every day thinking, oh, gee, this is great. What can I do now?
Yeah.
What's next? You know, but it takes a while to get there, and it's not just in your soil. It's not just in your production system. It's not just in your contour banks. You know, they're all little pieces and parts of a certain section: land, water, environment, business, production.
Yeah.
But they intertwined. This is what holistic thinking is. You got to broaden. You know, step back, get to the top of the mountain and look down the valley, and then you can see.
And there are plenty of people in the regenerative circles that have real strengths in these little aspects, or not little, but you know, specific aspects that you can draw from and converse with and build a bigger picture for your farm.
Oh, look, there's countless experts. They may not always label themselves as being regenerative coaches or whatever, but they're really good in their field. And that's what you do. You go and find an expert. So in today's world, it's probably not a good analogy, but for me, I think about going to your family GP. You know, he's pretty good at diagnosing and he's got your care in advice, but he's not going to give you heart surgery. You know, he's not going to fix your eyes. He's not going to fix your hearing if you need it. He's probably not going to stop you from having a heart attack if you don't want to do it yourself, but he's going to give you advice and he's going to check on you. That's how I see my role, I suppose, as a little bit of a person that's got some broad knowledge over many things, but if I want to know something definite, I'll go and find an expert. And there's lots of them. I've been lucky enough to meet and talk personally with many of these people, and I refer to them all the time. And I don't claim to be anything that I'm not, except for a bloke that's got an interest in doing the right thing for our environment and for myself ultimately.
And you are, though, I would say your strength really was the profit side financially. As much as you take in everything else, that is, your mind works really well with that.
Yeah, I've got some business savvy and I can break things down a little bit differently, but I had to learn that. Inherently I had an interest in it, because unless you make the money, at some stage, how are you going to do all the rest of it?
So yeah, we always have a bit of a
We do.
thing about this.
Yeah, but you don't want to, you know, you can sit there and think you're doing really well and your soil's improving, but you're not paying the bills. You know, and a lot of people are going to pull me up on this and they're going to say, oh, it's just about the money. Yeah, well, money's currency and you've got to measure all these things somehow, and money's an easy one to do it. You can be pretty ambiguous in trying to measure whether you've actually made a profit in some other way. And do we have time to do that? Because some of the things we're going to do, we won't see the benefit for 25, 30, 50 years, you know. That's beyond our recollection. But we can measure straight away whether it's change that we make today. So look, I'd encourage people to actually go back and have a look and sit outside for a little bit and see, maybe they can tweak their production system, maybe they can look at their marketing, maybe they can do some small things. Go back to their bank and renegotiate their interest rates. You know, look at the loans. You can save money in lots of places. Do I need to spend that today? What's the benefit of it? You know, do a proposal. There's lots of good people out there delivering courses on financial management, because you've got to think not quite like your accountant will think, because he thinks in taxation purposes. Yeah. Okay. So, but also got to remember that a lot of Australian farmers will be sitting back pretty wealthy at the moment because they own some land, because the capital gains have been so strong. But is their business keeping up with that? Yeah. You know, if you're relying on capital gains and increases in net wealth, which that's what that is, to carry you, and you're still losing money on your actual business production systems, you've got to have a look at it at some stage. And that's what I do. I pull things apart and have a look, and sometimes we put them back exactly as they were because there is no better way. Yeah. But sometimes there's some small things that we can do. And what I get paid to do is actually to go into places, often difficult ones, and make some hard decisions with staffing, setting up software, setting up business structures, farm design, setting the farm system up so it can run when I go away. Because ultimately that's what I want to do. I don't want to be there all the time. Yeah. I want to set it up so someone else can come in. So
So just going on to that, so you've been there for a year now, or close to.
Yeah.
And when you walked in, what did you see, and what did you change straight up?
What I saw was a family that had a huge interest in their environment and really wanted to do the right thing. They'd been knocked around by the drought. They'd had some business decisions that hadn't gone their way in terms of how they'd managed their production and their livestock and their animals. They had a want to do things well and to hopefully have some learnings for the greater community around them. And they just wanted to get going, and they needed someone to step in there and say, right, this is what we do. But what I also saw was they didn't really have a direct line of making decisions. Had a lot of conversation, but didn't have a way to decide which way they were going to go. So what we did was, the first week that I was there, my first piece of advice was we better form a decision-making process. And I requested that the members of the family, of which there's 5, I requested that they look at themselves as a board. And that's what we did. So we formed a board, and we set out how we were going to have meetings, and we had them regularly, monthly. And I also requested that they appoint inside their board a chief executive officer, so that I'd have someone as their general manager to deal with on a one-on-one basis and didn't have to speak to all of the people. I also requested that they align who was going to be their chief financial officer above myself, so that I could check where we were going and to help with budgetary type design. So my first period of time was set up basically in assisting the family to set up a decision making process, of which has been very successful.
Did any of them sort of go, I don't really want to do this?
Yeah, they all said that. We don't want to be a corporate. And I said, well, do you want to keep doing what you've been doing and have the same result you always got, or do we want to change it? And we changed it.
So did they have like sort of a family meeting and go, you know what, should we just give it a go?
I was at the meeting.
Okay, yeah, we're going to give it a go.
We're going to give it a go. We've just employed this fellow to help us. We maybe should take some advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean,
not much use having me there if you're going to tell me what to do, because I won't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there to give advice and to get work done. I've got a bit of a reputation of turning up and making shit happen.
And so what has happened on the farm then in that year's time, once you got the board happening?
We put mobs together and we started a grazing pattern, basically. So we put sheep and cattle in the same, so we made there's some funny term for people call it a flerd. For me, it's sheep and cattle in the same paddock.
Yeah.
And we started moving them, and then we designed a grazing system for the rest of the year. We looked at our inventory. So we switched marketing, inventory. What have we got? What have we got here that we can move on? And we sold. I found some heavy steers in a paddock. I found some empty heifers and cows in a paddock that had just been put there and sat, and no plan about what they were going to do with them. We got rid of a few cows. We looked at the stud. We're still looking at the stud. Haven't decided on that, but we've trimmed up. We've bought cattle. We had a look at the sheep. What are we doing here? Why are we doing it? Which way are we going to go with them? Those numbers have basically trebled in DSE, so we're trading sheep. What else have we done? Contour work, yeah. They had already started on some natural sequence farming ideas because they'd had Peter Andrews there. Unfortunately, a lot of the structures failed, bigger structures, because there wasn't enough work done above those structures, so they had an influx, so pretty massive failure. And some of the work they'd done hadn't been connected, so it actually wasn't operating. So I went around and started connecting them just with a little machine and started actually making things function. I've had a lot of experience in earthworks. In a past life, when I was building contour banks to take water away from farms and put them into gully.
Drainage.
Yeah. It was called soil conservation once upon a time. Yeah, so we started that pattern. So we've actually formed. What we decided to do was to build a master plan for the whole farm. Part of that master plan involved natural sequence farming ideas. So I had Stuart Andrews come down and visit me on the farm, and he brought with him a landscape architect, and we've actually designed a pretty major. A group of 4 major contour banks across the main properties. And I've started doing some work on I've actually repaired a couple of the ones that had failed, and I've done the headwater part of them, so they're actually ready to go.
How big's the property?
4,500 hectares. We're 1,100 metres above sea level. We're cold. We have snowfall.
Snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you going down the carbon path?
We are going down the carbon path, but we're doing it a bit differently. I view carbon a little bit differently. I view the benefits of carbon for sale secondary to the benefits to the farm in terms of resilience. Carbon is basically a direct measure of humus in your soils. The more we can increase our humus, the more water retention we'll have, and the more benefit that'll be to the local environment. If by chance over the next 5 years, and we have started a recording service so we can join in with down the track a carbon scheme. If by chance down the way we find there is an ability for us to profit out of selling our carbon to somebody else, then that's the way we'll go. But we're focused on improving the soil organic matter, soil carbon on our farm to do our job. We also have a tree carbon project in the planning and stages to actually take some lesser grazing land out of full production and incorporate that into a 600 hectare tree planting.
What's that called? Bio something?
No, this is a different. We're part of the Biodiversity Conservation Trust as well. So we actually do have a very large biodiversity scheme underway at the moment, and we manage that part of it. So our reward is the management of that. Yeah, interesting stuff. Lots of stuff going on. We've got lots of trees to plant. There's lots of areas that have been designed to have trees on them and just haven't been planted yet. So I've got about 10,000 trees to plant in the next 18 months.
And you're in discussions with how you want to do it compared to how they want to do it?
Yeah, the tree carbon project, the way it's designed, I have looked at it and I don't really like the way that the academics have come up with how they want to do it. I don't think they've taken enough attention to the landscape and to the way that things function. I don't think they have any. Looking at what they've given me, I really doubt they have much idea about what the landscape's going to do. I'd rather put my trees on contour and leave some alleyways because we're supposed to be able to graze them. And there's different work with densities and so forth, and then even the species. I just don't know whether they've got that right.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, that'll turn out in the wash, and we'll talk to some more experts. And I'd like to incorporate more timbers of potential beneficial use, so that my legacy will be the part of what I've left for the future generation to benefit from. So some of the trees that I'll plant today may be harvested in 100 years' time.
And if you look at it in that respect, that's huge, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I live in a rare world where I'm given the ability to influence how a pretty special piece of Australia will look in the future. And I take it very seriously. And I want to make sure it's the right thing, so we don't rush into stuff, even though I can sometimes be like that. I will see things that I think I can do today and that'll take effect tomorrow. Some of this stuff, it's longer term, it's multi-generational. So it won't be the next generation, it'll be the ones after that might benefit from it.
Yeah.
The people that I work for and with have a very strong idea about what they want to see happen. It's my job to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've had the money, they've purchased the property, they're wanting to expand it as well, are they?
Yeah, they've been there since 1964, and it's grown under the system that could have been classed as industrial. So they've got a history of set stocking, a history of very heavy stocking volumes without paying too much attention to the feed that's around. But we've decided to change that, and I think we've become very profitable already in doing that, because we're actually stocking to our carrying capacity and to what we know our feed's going to take place. So the winter's no growth. So if you're going to have animals there, you shouldn't really rely on them on putting on weight or production systems of kilo gain. You've got to look at something else. So we've done that.
And you haven't fed them, have you, over winter?
We don't feed.
Yeah.
We have a shed full of hay that I purchased because it was cheap. But we only really use it for special occasions, so a sick animal, sale cattle going out, coming in. We don't feed for production. I'll never feed for production ever again. If I feed you, you die in 100 days.
Yeah. big lesson to learn, that one.
It is, yeah. So I do the figures before I start. If we are going to be feeding, it's not because we have to, it's because we choose to. It's because there's a financial gain in it for us. So no.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I can talk for days on this stuff, but look, be kind. Be kind to who you are as a person, and everyone's journey is different. Every farm's different. Work out what it is that you want before you go blundering around, and just remember that if you want to transform your farm or your business into becoming more regenerative, and you're thinking about it, you've actually already taken the first step. So you're on your pathway. You haven't got to meet a strict set of criteria, because there is none. No matter what you'll hear a lot of noise about, there isn't any.
Yeah.
There's no definition.
No certification.
No certification.
Or regulation.
Don't bring that up with me, because I'll fight you to death. But none of that. We
Me
don't.
too.
We don't want any of that. All we want to do is try and work with nature, work within our ecosystem, benefit for the people and the land inside we do. So do no harm. Yeah. Watch your ego and your pride. Live with kindness and compassion, and be thankful.
Oh, thank you so much, Matthew.
No problem.
I know it's been a bit busy here.
I'm sure you can edit that out.
Yeah. Yeah, well, good luck, and yeah, well, hopefully we'll drop in and see you when the borders are open.
Yeah, the journey continues.